In the depths of the ocean, jellyfish drift, timeless and translucent. Their secret? A pact with the abyss, exchanging mortality for eternal life. Fishermen whisper of a cursed ship swallowed by a swarm, crew vanishing without a trace. Survivors speak of a strange sensation, as if their very essence was being siphoned away. A diver, lured by curiosity, descends into the inky blackness, only to find himself ensnared in a web of tendrils, his screams swallowed by the sea. The jellyfish watch, ancient and indifferent, as he becomes one of them. Like, comment, and subscribe for more chilling tales.